Alrighty, it is the Hobby Haul. Korea Amazon order. Good stuff, or could it be something else? I'm not sure. We're going to find out. Honestly, I know one of the things, you can see the Amazon box right there. I know one of the things that was shipped. The other stuff, I'm got an idea, but I'm not sure, and I didn't check Amazon, so I figured why not? Let's just do a live unboxing, check and see what we got. So with that being said, I'm Steve, the retired hobby tech guy, American expat in Korea. With that, we do resin printing, 3D printing, we do miniature painting, painting figures. Also ended up doing some cosplay stuff. I've got some videos on painting the Borderlands Ripper mask. George is back. Hey, how's it going, George? We're doing a little bit of a unboxing today. So just wanted to kind of throw this out there, and yeah, packages arrived on the doorstep, and I thought, hey, why not do a little unboxing thing, and we'll see how it goes. If you notice a little bit of difference in the background, yeah, did you notice that? We got some decorations on the wall, and if we actually go back, you can kind of see, yeah, we're kind of sprucing up the place. We're kind of bringing in, the little bit of production value. We're getting a little bit better. So yeah, we've got that stuff going on. I think it turned out really good. It's some sound panels, hexagonal sound panels, and black and gray, and I think that kind of does kind of a good thing there. So we're gonna continue to work on that. Really, what it comes down to is eventually, I'm gonna get a few better lights. But honestly, the lighting that we have is doing really good, even though it's El Cheapo stuff. But yeah, kind of like what George says, it looks nice. I think it turned out well. So I'm happy with it. With these things here up on the wall, it ends up that the hex pattern has kind of an adhesive backing. But the cool thing is, if you took off the whole backing, the whole thing is like one giant sticker. And it's like, I don't know if I want to do that because it's onto wallpaper. And if I take it down, I don't want it to get all gunky. I want to be able to reuse it. So I just took like a 1-inch strip on 2 of the sides and put them up on the wall, and nothing's fell down yet. So I'm going to call that a win. With that being said, we're going to transition over to the desk. We've got that right there. We're going to take a look at that, and I'm going to have to adjust that a little bit, like so. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to check that out. But with that, we have to do a little bit of a transition. So I actually have a chair over there. I just need to move the microphone. So what we'll do is we will leave you with a transition, a video, time lapse of one of the Ripper masks being printed out on the Creality K2 Plus as I move the microphone over there, and then I'll have to come back and hit the button, and we'll be over there, and we'll see what's inside the box. So with that, I also know that I'm going to need an X-Acto knife, which we have here. And so let's just jump right into the transition, and we will jump. To boom there, and we're gonna have to make some adjustments like so, and we should be good to go. Sit down and we will be ready. Let's start off with the box, because the box is going to be interesting. We got everything on camera? I think we do. And one of the things about being in Korea, and I don't have, I can turn on my tablet, and I can take a look at what's going on with the page, and if there's any comments or anything, I can read those as well. So I'll do that, and make sure that the volume's down, and we're good to go. So with this, Ooh. We've got some acrylic paint set. We've got 12 colors on this, 59 milliliters, so we'll get into that. And then, oh no, the box came undone. Don't you hate it when that happens? We have more paint. So, amidst this mass of stuff, let's see if we can salvage this. We also got something there too. Is it just me, or is sometimes when you order stuff, you forget what you ordered, and when it shows up, you're like, oh yeah, I remember that. That's about as good as it's going to get. So what we ended up with is we have Art Teco. We have 12 colors. This is an acrylic paint set. These are the metallic versions. So we've got 12 of these. And the whole purpose of these was to have some paints that weren't as expensive as kind of like the Vallejo paints, or, you know, the Army Painter, or the Speed Paint 2.0, or the Army Painter airbrush paints, or even the Citadel paints that I transferred into little dropper bottles. I wanted something that had a little bit more paint, and as we can see here, we can see this is pretty nice, 60 milliliters. So what we can end up doing, instead of using a bunch of Army Painter paints that are normally used for miniatures, which we do have some miniatures, that's kind of like what we have here. We don't want to use them on big stuff like this. We want to keep them for the little stuff, the miniatures that we paint, because those things are pretty expensive. So with this seems to be some really good stuff. So let's put the sharp object away so I don't stab myself. And we'll take a look at this. So we've got a bunch of colors. We've got like a deep yellow. We've got a mild yellow. And we can thin these out as well. And what I like about this, there's a yellow ochre, there's lemon yellow. So we've got a variety of different colors in here. And it's almost like we got some greens, Viridian, monastral green, whatever that is. And so in other words, we've got different shades of green that can be very useful when we're talking about painting and adding depth and adding color, because we have these different shades. And then also we could take something like this sap green, and we could dilute this down. We could add white to it. We could make lighter shades of this sap green. And if that's what we want to do, of course, you could also add some dark colors, like some black, and you could darken this up. So a lot of these, the combination of colors that you can have with this, just by the paints themselves, is pretty amazing. But when you start looking at what you can do on top of this by adding water, thinning these out, adding a touch of white or black, or something like that, holy crow, you're going to have so many color combinations. And there we've got raw sienna. That's always a good color. Gold. So we're going to have another metallic one there. Deep cyan blue. That is nice. Patheo blue, which almost looks like the blue that we used on the cobalt blue that we used from Vallejo, which is kind of this color here. That's pretty darn close. So the good thing is this is less expensive than those paints. We got some blue, Curlian blue. With the blue, we've got that. We also have a deep cyan blue. So we've got some great color ranges there. And let's see, what else do we got? Oh, we got another green. Phthalo green. We've got titanium white, which is really good. I've been wanting to get titanium white for a while. I've seen a lot of videos where people use the titanium white and they get some real good coloring and things like that. Got some silver, so we got gold and silver. We end up having a burnt umber, which will go along with the brown. We have a lamp black. Lamp black. Really? Lamp and then black? So, and then we have purple, and then we end up having a burnt sienna. So we got some pretty good color choices here. This looks really good. And I'm going to have to print out, obviously, another rack of some type. Good thing I have a 3D printer. And what I can end up doing, I wonder how these went in here. I guess we could find out. We could just kind of put these in here. And then we could just kind of lay these in the opposite directions, maybe. Maybe they'll fit better. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. So, yeah, I'm pretty excited about the new paints and everything. So that will be good. And we'll have stuff that won't be as expensive as the Wargamer paints. Or Warhammer. I was going to say Warhammer. War Boot, whatever. But yeah, we'll be able to paint larger cosplay items. And another thing, talking about the cosplay items, is when I've been printing that stuff out. So, for example, the helmet here, being able to save a lot of time by doing spray paint. So with this, I ended up spray painting the tan, but I hand painted the black, and that took some time. But with that, there we go. It all goes nice in the box. So 24 colors. That came out really, really nice. I like that. But to save even more time, I found that spray painting is an awesome tool. And especially when it comes to larger items, not so much for miniatures, because, for example, here is another Ripper mask, as you can see here. And what I ended up doing is painting the sand, that was spray painted, did the black, that was spray painted, and did the brown, and that's spray painted. And then after this, then we can go in with some of these acrylic paints and we can start doing some of the details, the rivets, the bolts. We'll add some texturing on this band here, the silver, metallic for the spikes. We'll try to make this like a leather band, and then we'll put some metal parts on there to match with that, and we'll distress this. I think this one is going to turn out really well. So if you want to save a bunch of money, or I guess you could say a bunch of time, which equates to money in some circumstances, spray paint and find some good spray paint for your cosplay items, and you can save a lot of time in doing that. So yeah, I'm really, like the first mask that I ended up doing, ended up with a total paint time, and we're not even talking about the break time, was 4.5 hours to without breaks to paint this. Whereas this, you're looking at painting the tan, that took like 1.5, 2 minutes. The black, you're looking at 1.5, 2 minutes. Same thing with the brown, put a couple coats on there and you're good to go. And we can significantly reduce the amount of time that we process our processing time. Processing our processing time. We can decrease the amount of processing time, which is really good, because then that will give us more time and we can knock these things out at a faster pace. And Lord knows sometimes I get squirrel moments. So, trying to minimize the amount of time and getting a project done quickly is actually a good thing. So let's take a look at some of these. These are 12 colors. Ooh, they're in bottles. And these are metallic paints. So we have a metallic blue, pearl bright blue. We have a pearl purple. So it kind of looks like that. We end up with a pearl bright red, pearl peach. I guess everything is pearl. Pearl orange yellow. Okay. kind of a pastel-y metallic type of look. Pearl yellow. Okay, so I guess somebody got stuck on the word pearl. Pearl crystalberry? Barrel? Chrysoberyl? I don't know, whatever that is. It's like a light green pastel metallic. And then this one is a bright gold. So we got rid of the pearl. Now we're just getting into bright gold. And some of that could be useful. This other one we got is bronze. That could be useful, really useful on that. The pearl white, we got back to the pearl. And then we have silver, which is good. And then the other that we ended up is a pearl black. So we've got a lot of pearl going on. So the cool thing is I've already made in Tinkercad and posted on Creality Cloud, the Buried Life, some trays that I can hang on the wall to have larger paints like these and like these over here. But maybe we'll have to check that out and maybe redo it because I'm running out of room here. So I got room over here to the right, and yeah, that'll be interesting because that's 24, this is 12, so that's 36. That would be kind of a tall paint rack. So we'll see how that goes. The other thing I ended up getting is this EG tray, neat and tidy, make life better. That's what it's about, making life better. And this I saw, I thought this was interesting, and I was like, you know what, this might be something that I want to get, because if it helps me clean or clean up faster, better, whatever you want to call it, we'll see how this goes. So, and it's funny because I order stuff and it's like I forget what some of this. Oh, okay, I know what this is. Cool. This is going to be interesting because it's not something that you think would be hobby related. This is a silicone mat that's got some funkiness on the sides here, but that's okay. This is a silicone tray, and this as well. And the great thing about silicone, if you know anything about it, is that you can use your acrylic paints. And normally what I have been using is this little plastic tray, which paint gets in the corners. It's kind of a pain in the butt to clean. But with this, with acrylics, it is so much easier to clean. So I figured, this was normally for like a bathroom. So if you put this on the back of your toilet and you put your soap that you never use and a little, seashell and something else, it's kind of like a display tray. And the same thing here, you could put it for like a cup, whatever, any other stuff. But I thought these two would work out really nice as possibly as paint palettes. So we're going to see how this works out. And I might use this one in the bathroom. We'll see what happens. So I'm going to use the smaller one and we'll see how it works out because this one has got some funky edges. I think we can clean that up. Oh yeah. It's not as pristine as the big one. And then maybe, depending on whether the wife likes this or not, this could go in the bathroom and we'll use this one for paint. So that was kind of the reasoning behind that, is to have a paint palette that is easy to clean, and silicone is definitely a lot easier to clean than the cheap little plastic cornered things. So that was kind of the reasoning behind that. So yeah, that is what we got on our hobby haul. Art Techo. These, if you have experience with these, let me know, because I would be interested in that. It seemed to have good reviews. And again, I wanted something that would have larger quantities of paints and less expensive than, Army painter paints and things like that, which really, these are, 59 millimeter or 17? Army painter 2.0. I think these are like 17 milliliters, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. But they're really small bottles, and the price of these things is pretty expensive. So, George says, with my bad memory, I always try. I'm always surprised. I know how that goes. It's like hey, Christmas. Yeah. It also, my wife, it happens to my wife too. We had a bunch of packages arrive, and she was like, what did you order? And it ends up the 5 or 6 packages were actually all her stuff. So, yeah, there's that. But yeah, it's always kind of a good thing. George says, going a regular Bob Ross. I don't know about that. That's a good compliment. I'll take that. But yeah, these are going to be pretty good. So these are 59 milliliters. These are 60. So there's a significant amount of paint in these when you're talking about like these bottles that are like 17. Does it say on these what these are? These are 18 milliliters. So 18 versus 60. 18, 60, and that one's 59. So yeah, it ends up, he's going to save me some money by doing that. Spend a little bit of money, but it's going to save me money. And yeah, going into the world of Bob Ross. So yeah, that's what we end up having. So anyway, this will help in when we do our new Ripper mask, that some of these colors, especially these over here, I think we're going to get into, because we're going to have to do some black. It has silver, so we'll do some silver on here on some of these pieces. We're going to have to do something different on these, so I'm not sure what those colors, but we got some silver that we could do on these, and of course the spikes and everything, and then some distressing, some shading. We also have the blue that's going to go on here, which is going to be similar to this here, kind of like the cobalt blue. So this phthalo blue or whatever it is, or that deep cyan, we'll probably do that onto here. Yeah, so I think this is going to be really good. I think this is going to turn out well when we do our projects. So let me go ahead and put that back up there. Or maybe we'll just keep it down here. We'll just keep it down there. So that's what we ended up getting for the hobby haul. Pretty good. And the Ripper mask turned out pretty good. Put a little bit of padding on there, nothing real fancy. And then you can see with the eyes, with the window tint, security window tint stuff, and then some little bit of hex. Actually, it's window screen repair. And that turned out really good. So we're probably going to do something similar with the other mask, and I like it. I like it. This one, it has like a piece in here to where you can set in another piece, and so I got to actually take a look at that and see what the deal is there. But we'll finish painting this up, and then we'll coat it the same way as this one with a high gloss UV varnish, and we should be good to go. Okay. So there it is. So with that being said, we're going to transfer back over to the computer. Oh, we got another box. That's right. I forgot about that. We do have another box. So what do we have here? I already know what's in this box. And this is going to be This is the Polymaker Matte PLA, 2.5 kilograms, and it's the black. And so this is the good stuff. I've really enjoyed. Somebody recommended this for doing like cosplay, and this has turned out really, really nice. The only thing I don't like is some of the packaging can end up kind of bending on these. I wish they had a little bit better packaging, because we do have a little bit of a bend on this. But this color here, this matte black from Polymaker PLA, is really, really nice. And with 2.5 kilos of material, it's just great. So, and I've got another order of this coming in because of the Prime Day deal. I think I got this on Prime Day deal, and I think the other one came on Prime Day deal as well. So we're able to get like 10, 15, 20% off, whatever it was. So we got some deals on that. So I need to keep track of the Prime days, so I can take advantage and maximize the savings on getting stuff like this. So yeah, it seems to be pretty good. So that's what we got there. What we'll do is we will transfer back over. So we'll get Mr. Microphone. Anybody remember the Mr. Microphone commercial? I know that was kind of an interesting little thing. And we will jump back into, boom, we are back. So let me turn the light off. See how that looks. Yeah, we got the mood lighting going. We got all that. And that is what we got going on. Okay, so there it is. What we ended up doing is our hobby haul, which ended up being pretty nice. I got some other stuff that is going to be ordered, so that should be good. And yeah, George says it's amazing that, talking about Bob Ross, he painted with a treatment for radiation sickness, and it's one of my favorite blues. What? Let me read that again. It's amazing that he painted with a treatment for radiation sickness, and it is one of my favorite blues. All righty, yeah. Adam Baum comes in here. Hey guys, I'm on the radio. Mr. Microphone, amaze your friends and family. I remember that commercial with the kids and the Mr. Microphone as they're driving by, and it's, hey, yeah. I'm old. So anyway, yeah, thinking back to the olden days of Mr. Microphone and all that, and, you know, just pretty neat. George says, Prussian blue. Okay, alrighty. Yeah, I remember seeing the Bob Ross videos, and I remember watching that, and it was like, during that time of my life, I wasn't really into artsy stuff, so it was like, watch it for a little bit, and then I got bored. And then lo and behold, now that I'm retired, I'm painting things. So yeah, Bob Zombie. Not Bob Zombie, but Zombie Hunter has popped in here. Hey guys, hey. We were just talking about Bob Ross and painting, and the recent haul that I ended up getting a bunch of acrylic paints from Art Teco is the company. And yeah. Adam Baum says Prussian blue is how Zyklon B's color was described. Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Interesting information. Zyklon B's. Cool. So many cool things that I don't know, that you all know, and that enriches my life to no end. So, yeah, it's just kind of cool. Seeing the way I used to be when I was younger and didn't think I would be involved in anything like this, and now that I'm 59 and older, that I'm into paints and acrylics, and it's like, ooh, paintbrushes, and it's, you know, it's just odd. It's just odd. Life surprises you at times, so yeah. And talking about coloring, Zombie Hunter says, Bob Zombie, LOL. Yeah. A very colorful character. That's all we have to say with that. Yeah, it just kind of some wild stuff. So anyway, it ends up that, you know, being here in Korea, and for those of you who don't know, I'm an American expat. I retired here in Korea with me and my wife, and it has been, matter of fact, we just went over 3 years. 3 years we have been in Korea. And this delivery, when did we order this stuff? We ordered this stuff on October 5th, and it's the 13th. So, yeah, not too bad. Kind of works out pretty good. So about 8-9 days is kind of, Usually it's about 10 or 11 days, but recently the orders have been coming in a little bit quicker. So 8 days, that's pretty good. So with Amazon shipping and being retired here in Korea, they deliver to my Korean address. But 8 days, that's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. Now with some stuff, there is going to be some import taxes can be had at times. It is free shipping as long as it's over $50. So you got to hit that limit. So that's great. And then, of course, there's the Prime membership that you have. So, we have that going on. And we have the Prime Video and stuff like that, just the Barney Basic stuff. And so it takes 8 days to get here. But if the order is $150 and lower, then there's no import tax. There's no VAT tax or anything like that. If it's over $150, boom, that's where the import tax comes in. And that's where we get dinged a little bit. So on the larger items, I just really need to pay attention to the Prime days and kind of pull it up on ChatGPT or Grok or whatever the flavor of the month AI is, to kind of put that onto my calendar to find out, hey, when are the Prime days? And because you can get some significant savings. So even if I have to pay some import tax, it will lessen the sting of that. And of course, then if I make sure that it's $150 or lower, that's also something that I should probably consider as well. So, yeah. Rob Zombie was really, really disappointed me with his Monsters movie. He had a Monsters movie? Really? I didn't know that. I remember watching The Munsters. Again, dating myself, old. And it was in black and white. So I'm going to say that there were reruns, hopefully. Matter of fact, when did the Munsters? Let's put up Rob Zombie. Zombie Munsters? That was 1922. Really? I didn't even know that. Wow. Huh. But it didn't do so. It didn't blow your hair back there. Didn't do it for you. Is that the deal? Huh. Really? It's on Netflix. And it got 55% on Rotten Tomatoes. Letterboxd, it got 2.4 out of 5. Oof. Ouch. IMDb got 4.5 out of 10. Yeah. Sounds a little rough. Sounds like it had a little bit of a rough haul there. So, yeah, maybe that's probably out of the wheelhouse of Rob Zombie. So, yeah, I didn't know that. But the Munsters, when did that? I bet you that came out in the 60s? Yes, 1964 is when the Munsters first started. So that, and they had 2 seasons from 64. Really? Overview. Let's take a look at this. The family at 1313 Mockingbird Lane is a little different. Dad Herman looks like Frankenstein's monster. Mom Lily and her dad, Grandpa, are vampires. Son Eddie is a werewolf. Poor Marilyn, their niece, is the odd one out. She's a normal girl, and the family doesn't like to call attention to their unfortunate looks. First episode date was September 24th, 1964, and it ran for 2 seasons. The final episode was May 12th of 1966. So the year that I was born I was in October 66. So, but I remember seeing the old ones, the reruns of that, and then you had the Addams Family. That was the other one I was thinking about, the Addams Family. I had that confused with the Munsters, but the Addams Family was 64 to 66, and I remember seeing reruns of that as well. Of course, there was also the Monster Squad. There was Bewitched and I Dream of Jeannie and Gilligan's Island and all that good stuff. So yeah. But wow, that was really cool. Huh. And I don't know, but then on the overview, on some other ones, it said that it got good reviews. But yeah, the Rob Zombie Monsters didn't fare as well. So it's like, yeah, he needs to stick with Rob Zombie movies. What was that one? Yeah, Three from Hell, Lords of Salem. Let's see, what else did he end up? Halloween, Grindhouse, Devil's Rejects. That was the other one I remember. And House of a Thousand Corpses. Those were some kind of wild, and those are he's a little touched. Some of that stuff at the time it was released, it's like, holy crow, something is disturbingly wrong with Rob Zombie. Yeah, it's kind of a jarring violence and the whole nine yards. That was really kind of off the chain. When I think of horror movies, it ends up that the horror movie that I hated the most as a kid was Gargoyles, which was like in a 19, what was it, Gargoyles? Was 77, 76? Gargoyles was 1972. Okay, I was close. And then, that Gargoyle movie scared the piss out of me. That was, holy crow. I saw that. I was 10 years old, and I snuck away and saw that, and it scared the bejesus out of me. It was just horrible. So, yeah, I thought gargoyles were real. And then the other scary movie that I ended up seeing as a kid was Jaws when that first came out. I saw that into the theater. Got back home from the theater. I didn't want to go to the bathroom because I thought Jaws would come up through the toilet and bite my backside. So, yeah. But I'm not averse to horror movies. I kind of like horror movies that have a definite protagonist and hero type of thing. I like kind of like the supernatural, like, what is a recent... kind of like the Conjuring movies. The Conjuring movies. I like those, that type of thing there, because there's the fight against good and evil. And there's another one that was a real good movie about the Catholic priest, the Pope's Exorcist. That was a really good one. I wish they would do more like that. Because that was a good one. I like that. That was enjoyable. But like the hack and slash and all that stuff, I'm not into that. I like a more cerebral type of thing. And let's see, another more recent type of movie in that genre would be Nefarious. And Nefarious I was really impressed with it. And if you haven't checked out Nefarious, it is Nefarious. It was a 2023 film, and so the overview on this, it ended up got 4.5 stars. Sean Patrick Flannery's acting is nothing short of brilliant and worthy of an award or at least a nomination. That was an incredible movie. Man, it was just really, really good. That whole movie. It also had the guy that played in Yellowstone as the lawyer's son, the adopted lawyer's son or whatever from Yellowstone, I think it was. And the whole idea is that Nefarious is this demon that had taken over this person, and they committed a bunch of murders and whatever, and is going towards death row. And then a psychologist was called in prior to see if he was sane or insane. And Nefarious, this demon reveals himself, and kind of the whole game plan of, the bad guy stuff. And it was really, really cerebral. It almost kind of reminded me a little bit of the Screw Tape Letters. I don't know, C.S. Lewis, if you've read any of those Screw Tape Letters, where it's a series of letters from a lower ranked demon to a higher ranked Screw Tape, and talking about taking over and how the devil's, demons work against Christians and people to get them on their side, to get them away from God or whatever. But the Nefarious was kind of similar to that. And the insight on that was like, it was really good. It was really well written. I was really, really good. George ends up saying, I think I would rather have a colonoscopy than that. Again, I love the original series. I like suspense more than slashers. Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of that way too. Or what about, it's kind of a slasher movie, like the Final Destination series. I thought that was kind of interesting, you know. But then again, you're pitting yourself against, you've cheated Death, and now Death is coming for you again because you cheated him, and Death is pissed off. That's why I kind of like that Final Destination. Let's see, Devil's Rejects. That was a little bit rough for me. Descent was kind of a good one. I like that. You know, going into the depths of the earth and people that, you know, whatever, had morphed into whatever. The Alien series, it's sci-fi, but it's kind of horror-ish. I like stuff like that. But yeah, I like the suspense stuff. I like the drama. I like the more, yeah, I guess suspenseful and drama, more cerebral type stuff. The fight against good and evil, I really like that. If it's just being evil for the sake of evil, yeah, I'm not into that. George says, an underrated horror movie is Event Horizon. Really? Event Horizon. I've heard of that, but I don't think... Event Horizon was 1997. That's when the IMF came and bailed out Korea. Kind of an interesting thing there. Let's see what that was. Directed by Paul Anderson, written by Philip Iser, Lawrence Fishburne, Sam Neill, Kathleen somebody. Let's pull that up and see what that's about. Set in the year 2047, it follows the crew of astronauts set on a rescue mission of a missing starship, the Event Horizon, spontaneously appears in orbit around Neptune, only to discover that a sinister force has come back with it. Had trouble with production, it came out, blah, 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 began to sell well. DVD on home video DVD sales did well. In the year, the film has developed a cult following, and a comic book prequel series was published by IDW. Okay, I can get into that. Of course, there are signs of a massacre, blah, blah, blah. I dig this. I dig the space movies. So like the Aliens, I think that Event Horizon is kind of within that same type of thing, science fiction-y, but, you know, hey, what happened? Everybody's dead, and, you know, so yes, kind of that stuff there. I enjoy that as well. I'll have to check that out. So cool. Thank you. A distress signal. It really says Libera to Tetamet ex Inferis, which translate to save yourselves from hell. Inferis, which is inferno. Ship's drive must have opened a gateway somewhere beyond the known universe and brought back something horrible with it. Okay, I'm not going to read anymore. But I'm going to have to check that out. Aliens was one of the best movies. Yeah, matter of fact, the recently they had the Aliens Earth series come out, and I was kind of skeptical. Honestly, I was skeptical on that, but I was kind of surprised. I wasn't expecting a lot, and it kind of turned out kind of good. I'm still kind of like, you got some really, really young people, and it's like, you know, there seems to be a line that Hollywood had crossed of where it's like, well, the child star, and I think it came, for me, the realization that, you know, we're giving too much credence to kids is when Star Wars, one of the Star Wars ones with, what's his face, the guy who played Darth Vader when he was real young, the little kid, you know, with the pod racing and stuff like, oh, the spin move, that always works. You know, and it's just like when you start putting kids up onto a pedestal that are born with innate abilities that really don't have to fight and overcome, there's no real character development. It's just kind of, you throw the kids and they're already powerful, and it's, you know, it's kind of different than the movies of where you have something like Captain America and the comic books, and of course the movie, you know, the Marvel series and all that, where he's skinny, and even though he's a good guy, he's skinny, he can't do anything, and then he carried that same honor and integrity and values in the American way as he became Captain America. And so then it just kind of made his own personal struggles through that transition and being Captain America. And then, of course, the problems of being alive for so long, knowing that you're going to outlive everybody, that really kind of puts, kind of tugs at your heartstrings. It makes for a real good story. But Hollywood seemed to get on, and so did a lot of companies, Netflix and so on and so forth, that suddenly children everywhere were the heroes. And it's just kind of like not believable. Zombie Hunter says Predator was another great 80s movie. I know, right? Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sonny Landham, I think, was the guy who was the Indian dude. And then you had, who was the other guy? Carl Weathers. I think he was in that. Was Carl Weathers in that? No, I think he was in another one. I don't know. But yeah, the Predator movie, when that first came out, that was like, wow. Because you had the Predator, the ultimate apex predator, and, a killing machine that was looking kind of like a prized trophy hunter here on Earth would go to the Sahara or different, the jungles and try to come away with trophies. And the Predator, was doing that to people on Earth, hunting people. And so, but through determination, a little bit of luck, and some great fight scenes and so on and so forth, Schwarzenegger ended up beating it. And that was great because the Predator was vulnerable, but it was also strong and powerful, but then it was also sleek. It had the stealth thing going on there. And then eventually, if you watch the movie, it turned out Predator was really good. Predator 2 was good as well. I agree with you. I like the Predator 2 as well. Some of the other ones after that, it was kind of like, you watched it because it came out, but they weren't as good as the first two movies. But yeah, and then this latest one, which was the Predator one, where it ended up having like dog predator, animals, whatever thing, and then the Predator was like indestructible. You could like launch grenades into it and rockets, and it was okay. And it's like, well, the Predator that could killed the other Predator with one punch, and he can't stop these humans. I mean, it was so unbelievable. There was no, I don't know. It was just kind of a too fast, too quick. And I don't think they put thought into that Predator movie. So it was kind of like, and then you had the autistic kid that suddenly he's like rocket scientist, genius dude. And then the guy shipping the helmet to his autistic son, family member or whatever. And then they figure it out and blah, 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 blah. And it's just like, it's all unbelievable. Don't get me wrong. It's all unbelievable. But that was just like, seriously, let's put some thought into these things. But yeah, Ripley, she was awesome. The Predator 2018 was crap. Yeah. And is that the Predator? What was the Predator one that they recently had where they had the girl, the Indian girl, fighting the Predator? And again, it's this whole thing. Let's get the young ingenue female to fight this awesome, incredible, powerful Predator, and she wins, and it's like, really, really, I get the push for equality. I understand that, but I mean, when you get to the point of where it's like, when you see women boxers fighting a male boxers, and they get their bell rung so easily, it just kind of that, knowing that, or what was it, the Olympic women's soccer team got beat by 15-year-old boys from like 7-1 or whatever it was, 7-0, and definitely there's always stuff like that. And then you're telling me that the apex predator of the universe, except for the aliens, they're pretty much on the same level, that now suddenly this 14, 15, 16-year-old little girl or young girl, maybe 17, 18, maybe 19 years old, is going to fight a predator and win. I don't know. It just didn't. didn't give me the good vibe like the old Predator movies. Zombie Hunter says it was directed by Shane Black. He was in the original Predator, but with Arnold, but Shane didn't do it justice. Okay, Shane was he was the skinny guy with glasses. I think that's who you're talking about, because he was in there. And then there was rumors that at one time that Jean-Claude Van Damme was going to be in there, but then that kind of fell through or whatever. But yeah, I mean, that Predator was pretty good. And then what were some crappy ones? Oh, the Prometheus. What the hell? With Michael Fassbender and stuff. He was a great actor. I really loved him as Magneto when he did his thing as a younger Magneto. That was incredible. You know, hunting Nazis and killing them. That's always, you can't go wrong with that. Yeah, Zombie says, yeah, I think he was the one with the glasses, the techie guy that was there in the Predator movie. But yeah, that's cool. Yeah. Directed by Shane Black when he was in the original Predator. Wow, that's pretty cool. And it just ended up just being a cool movie. And then there was the one with, who was the ugly guy? And this was a recent one. And he's got like the big nose. Oh, I got to pull that up. Predator movies. And some people didn't like it. Yeah, Carl Weathers was in there. Kevin Peter Hall was the Predator. Sonny Landham, El Padilla Carlillo, Shane Black. Yeah, Shane Black was the guy with the glasses. And Bill Duke, he was the guy with the big chain gun, big black guy. Richard Chavez was Poncho. Jesse Ventura was Blaine. Predator movies. So here is the... We fought the wrong side. But what was this one? Because there was... Oh, the movie... Oh, Prey. Oh my gosh, that just pissed me off. Let's see. George Valentine says, can't figure out how to run either left or right. Just keep running straight and get squished. Yeah, there was... one of the Predator or Alien movies, and what was it? Charlize Theron was running, and this big tower is falling, and then she gets crushed by it. And it's like, go left or right. But no, she runs straight as the boom. But Predator's 2019 movie, 2010. So we have. Let me pull this up. Might as well. Let's take a look at the desktop here, and the Prey. Now this is in chronological order, so it was kind of like Prey, Killer of Killers, Predator, Predator 2, Alien versus Predator, then the 2, and then Predators, then the Predator. That one I was like, really? We're doing this? It was just young Comanche woman trying to prove herself as a worthy warrior and hunter while feral predator visits Earth for the first time. Yeah, I wasn't impressed with that. Killer of Killers, that was a cartoon. Predator, that was the good one. In 1987. Wow, that was a couple years after I got into the military. That was really good. Predator 2 was good. Danny Glover, Gary Busey, Bill Paxton. Yeah, I like that. That was good. And the Heat Wave in Los Angeles. That I like that as well. I think they did justice with that. AVP, Alien versus Predator. Lance Henriksen, I like him. He was good. I kind of like that. So there was that. On the ice of Antarctica. It was kind of, I had some mixed reviews on that. But generally it was like, okay, it was all right. Aliens versus Predator Requiem. And reviews, cold shoulder for most fans, although it delivered the unrestrained nastiness and new bits of Predator lore. The movie keeps pushing the idea of everything. I don't know. That doesn't really stand out for me. George says, the new Predator movie, I'll watch it, but I'll have my concerns. Yeah, the model is awful. Oh, yeah, the new one. Oh, my gosh. Oh, this was the one, Predators, with what's his face there, Adrian Brody. I kind of like this. I kind of like the mix up of where, they had all the different characters and they kind of parachuted in onto the planet and, mercenaries and Yakuza and all that stuff. I still don't know why we don't have a Predator movie in feudal Japan. That would be awesome. And you could even expand the universe even more. And during, you could do it during, Civil War. You could do it during World War I or World War II. I mean, there's just so many options you could do with the Predator or even the aliens, but definitely the Predator. The jungles of Vietnam or whatever. I mean, it's just so cool. But I actually kind of liked this one. It was different. I know a lot of people didn't like it, but I thought it was okay. I thought it was okay. So I know a lot of people didn't really like it, but yeah. This one, The Predator, I wasn't too excited about that one. There was some things there. It's like, there it is, the Predator. At least he looks like a Predator. I got to give him that. But here they have this alien being, and he's just like on a table, no containment. Lord forbid it's an alien from outer space, but we're not gonna contain it. Maybe there's contaminants, or maybe it's contagious, or Lord knows, whatever it is. Yeah, it was kind of like it was a little rough. Yeah, I don't know about that. Yeah, but then we have the Alien series of movies came out, and of course the first Alien, was good. Alien movies timeline. So let's take a look at that. And of course, you gotta love Ripley. You gotta love Ripley. It is just, she's the bomb. From 1979. And that movie, you can still watch that movie, and it's still an awesome movie. That's all I gotta say. From 1979 original to Alien Earth, the crossovers, some of that stuff. Let's see what we end up with here. Alien versus Predator. Alien versus Predator. That was 2004. Failed AVP project. It was developed in the 90s. Shane Salerno script of the action back then to present day 2004. Investigated massive heat signal on the ice. Then it was like, it was so-so. The Requiem, we got that. Prometheus, oh my gosh, Prometheus. That was just like, seriously, really? We wasted good money for Prometheus because so many things were out of whack on that. I mean, I like Michael Fassbender. I like Noomi Rapace, or whatever her name is, Charlize Theron. Charlize looked like she was kind of just doing it for a paycheck. She wasn't really involved in that. It just didn't click. And then it's just weird, the engineers and the whole thing, and dude in the beginning of the movie, where a big engineer, big buff guy, buffier than me, that he takes this thing and then he just disintegrates on the planet. And it's like, what? Really? And there was other things that happened in the movie that just didn't really make sense. And it was like, some stuff was so, you knew what was going to happen. When Michael Fassbender ended up with Michael Fassbender, you already knew what was going to happen. I mean, that was just plain as day. I was like, that's what they're going to do. Alien Covenant in 2017. it wasn't really memorable. The Alien Earth, Timothy Oliphant, but a lot of these younger characters, again, kind of reminds me of the, let's get the kids involved and they're all powerful and all knowing or whatever. Maybe not all knowing, but they've attained their powers through no personal struggle, really. It's just kind of they show up and they have their powers. But like the other kid that was in charge of, and he wanted somebody smarter to talk to or whatever, and it's just like you're pretty full of yourself. You're just the classic spoiled rich kid thing that went on. Alien was more suspense. The rest were more action, not taken away from the others, just an observation. That's true. Yeah, it kind of went from a suspenseful kind of grab you type of thing, and then especially with the some of them, it just straight up action, and it didn't make sense. Some of them, but there was a lot of action. So, but the Alien Earth thing, I watched that series, and it was okay. It was okay. But the Alien classic, that was classic. And then when Ripley went to the planet, the prison planet, we had that. The Aliens movie, that was really good. Of course, that one was good. And then Alien 3 was in 1992 with Charles F. Studd and Charles Dance, and that's where she ended up going on to the prison planet. I thought that was good as well. So, and then Alien Resurrection, that wasn't too bad. That kind of made sense because they're trying to clone and clone the human and the alien together and whatever, and you saw all that. And Ripley ended up being, clone number whatever. And then that whole thing was kind of an interesting. I kind of enjoyed that. So, and who was the other guy that was in there? Ron Perlman, Winona Ryder. She was kind of in there. I thought that was a good movie. Yeah, it was kind of interesting. So, yeah, it's some good stuff there, but super good. Aliens 3, Aliens, Ripley was, the super, she was the bomb. And then the story behind when the thing came out of the alien came out of the guy's chest, that the other actors didn't know how that was going to go down, and so that scared the piss out of them. They just kept rolling. It's kind of like the Jaws movie. They attacked a lady and pulled her down or whatever, and she didn't know what was going to happen, and so she screamed bloody murder. That ended up, it was, and especially back then, this was really groundbreaking. But you can still watch Alien, you can still watch the Alien Romulus, you can watch Aliens. And those, even though they're as old as they are, they're still really good movies, and I really enjoy those. Some of them I'm gonna have to rewatch because honestly, I don't remember them. It's just maybe I was preoccupied with something else. I don't know, but yeah, that was kind of interesting little deal there. Trip down memory lane when it comes to movies. So, Alien Earth. Which kind of brings to mind, I like the Marvel series. I like the superhuman, people becoming superhuman type of things, reminiscent of superheroes and things like that. But when you flooded the market with a bunch of kids getting powers, and it just there's something lost in that. And then combine that with the fact that then they came out with a bunch of movies where the kids were smarter than the adults, and the kids are all knowing and whatever, and adults are just seen as kind of less or stupid or both or whatever. It was just there seems to be a limit on that stuff. George says the reason Jaws worked so well was because Bruce never worked. Bruce never worked. I'm not sure of that reference, but the Jaws movie was awesome. Watch that later. and then the whole thing. Uh, but some of the other movies that came, the Jaws 2 and whatever and all that, that kind of got played out. That eventually it just got to the point of, yeah, another Jaws movie. Okay, whoop de but the Jaws, maybe the second Jaws movie was good, but yeah, Jaws was a classic. I mean, I rewatched that I think last year, and it was just still suspenseful. It got you on the edge of your seat, and even though the technology was so old, and I actually had an uncle that worked at Universal Studios, so we actually got to go on set, not of Jaws, but with Planet of the Apes, and seen a lot of cool actors. Apparently, my uncle was somebody. But we got to meet a bunch of actors, and yeah. The shark model was named Bruce. Really? I didn't know that. So the reason Jaws worked so well is because Bruce never worked. Ah, so the model didn't work. Interesting. I just remember the model of Jaws at Universal Studios as you go through that ride, and then the shark comes up and ate the guy on the boat or whatever. Have the music dun 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 dun. Yeah, that would perk you up. But yeah, it just ended up being a great movie. And to see again that pit against nature and humanity, the good and the evil, things like that, and then overcoming the adversary of whether it's Jaws or the Kraken or whatever it is. There always has to be that conflict or the fight against something that is greater than what you are, or more voracious, or whatever it is. Yeah, that is kind of the essence. You have to have that to have a good movie, especially when we're talking about action or sci-fi or fantasy, stuff like that. But now we're kind of sidetracked into diversity, so now we got to have every race under the sun has got to be in a production and in this, and then there's a huge feminist thing that we're going to push feminism and strong female character. It's like you don't need to push that at every turn, And if you look back at Aliens and Ellen Ripley back in way back in the day of 1979, I mean, they didn't push feminism, but she was a super strong female character, and it worked. And they didn't demean men either. So there's that dynamics. And so often, many movies today, it's like, I don't mind that you have strong female characters, but when you do it at the expense to make the men look stupid and inept, that's where it's like, you lost me there. It just doesn't flip, not my cup of tea. Doesn't flip back my hair, not my cup of tea. But yeah, that's just my personal opinion. So yeah, but Jaws, yeah, that was a good movie. I like that. Bruce, I'll have to remember that. Bruce the shark. So yeah. So anyway, that's what we got going on. And if anybody's interested, it's Monday the 13th October, getting closer to the birthday, and it ends up that the weather is currently. It was raining when we came home today, because it was scheduled to have rain all day, 100%. It is 68 degrees, high of 70 today, and I think we're already past it's getting cooler. And tomorrow's high is 70, 69, 76. So, but by next Friday, Saturday, next Sunday, and Monday, the high is going to be 58. So we're getting into some colder weather, and until Saturday, we've got high like 90, 85% of chance rain. And so yeah, it's getting a little cooler here. So a good time to watch a movie. Ripley had a good character development. Now it's like they're strong and they have no weaknesses, and that's why they don't work now. I got to agree with you. Look at the Marvels, the Marvels movie, where you have the Marvels, the Eternals or whatever, and it's just like you're all powerful and everything, and there's no personal development. It's just like, you're super powerful. And then you try to push the agenda, and it just, they're strong, they have no weaknesses, and that's why it doesn't work. Yeah, there's no character development. I totally agree with you. You know, there has to be action in the movie, but there has to be some conflict, but there has to be some personal conflict in the character themselves, and there has to be a journey that the main character and supporting characters go through to whether they survive or whether they fail, or the person who was a coward ends up doing one last act of bravery that redeems him, that you thought the guy was terrible or gal was terrible. They do that one last redemptive act to save everybody. I mean, that speaks volumes. And I think that should be included in movies. But today it's like, kind of like what Zombie said, is, they're all strong and super powerful, and it's like, who are you to tell me what to do? And who's the other one that amplified that? Brie Larson, when she did Captain Marvel or Miss Marvel or whatever the hell the name was. Super powerful, no character development. She looked like she was bored playing the part, and some little quibs and whatever. And it was just like there was no there was no depth to the character. And so I think that's why a lot of people turned off on that, because it's like, hey, I paid money to see somebody just act like a plank of wood. I don't get it. It doesn't good. Ripley was thrown into it in the first one, so she needed to stand up. Yeah. I mean, she found her footing, and that not only did you get to see her character develop as a person, but then the huge obstacles, she stepped up, and you saw the anger and the visceral feelings as battling the alien and so on and so forth. And then in other movies after Alien, she's in the mech thing and fighting the mother alien. I mean, that was really good. Get your hands off that, just really, really, really good. Adam says, catch you guys later. I'm off to class. All right, study well. Do well. Take notes. Sounds good. Have a good one. We'll see you on another video another time. Always good having you aboard, Adam. I appreciate that. Someday you'll have to tell us what you're going to school for. That'd be interesting to know. Zombie Hunter ends up saying, see you, Adam. So, yeah, good stuff. Maybe it's filmmaking. If you're doing filmmaking, Adam, you need to make some good films. Now you know how to do that. So, so we kind of went on a rabbit trail, didn't we? Yeah, we did. Adam says later. George ends up saying, people can't write anymore, and that's why I watch more older movies and stuff from other countries. That's true. I have been dipping into some of the Korean movies and overseas shows in movies and things like that are subtitled or dubbed, and yeah, and I definitely rewatch older series and movies. Matter of fact, the wife and I were just talking about it. We don't have a DVD player, but we have a ton of DVDs on some of the favorite movies, and we got rid of a bunch of them, but we kept a bunch and sent them to us here in Korea, and so yeah, we need to get a DVD player. But I like. There's definitely a lot of good movies, and I'll rewatch series or movies, television shows, stuff like that. Justified series was really good. Yellowstone series, 1983, the beginning of the Yellowstone way back when. I'm getting into that. Of course, Tombstone. It's just a wide variety of different shows and movies where the movies and shows back then really had good writing. And unfortunately, today they just kind of like, not so much. So. And The Witcher. We talked about The Witcher on a previous video, and I'm still going to watch that, but I'm not going to be expecting much. We'll see how it goes. But then what was some other series on Amazon? Rings of Power. I was a little disappointed with that. And what was the other one? Wheel of Time. Yeah. Again, it's this whole feminist thing of where all these women have all this power and the guys are made to look like idiots for the most part, and they're sub, you know, below the women and so on. And it's just like there's a little bit of character development there, but for the most part, it's like when you try to twist and manipulate and try to make a world where the women are king, really, and is doing a disservice because really the only other ones that did that were like the Amazons. You know, when you're talking about like Wonder Woman and stuff like that, which could still be good, but when you push it to the point of where every woman is better than the man, and the men are made to look, you know, lesser or stupid or not as smart and whatever. I think case in point was remember the Mad Max series. Mad Max was really good. Zombie says, if you want a good laugh, look up The Castle. The Castle. Australian movie. The Castle. There's no place like this home. Okay, I'll check that out. 1997 Australian comedy directed by Rob Stitch or Sitch. Okay, I'll take a look at that. I'm up for that. I'll check that out. If we're talking about comedies, I like the movie Idiocracy. That's actually becoming a documentary. But yeah, some of the older ones are good. Some of the older TV series like Airwolf. I never got into Airwolf or anything. Zombie says 120-pound woman beating up a 240-pound man. I'll check that out. Yeah, comedies. I like some comedies, but I'm really particular on my comedy. I don't know. But I'm more into the drama, more into the suspense, more into the cerebral. I like action, but I don't like so much action that's the replacement for character development in movies. You know, some of the Transformer movies was just like, meh. Because the lack of character development and some of the action scenes in some of the Transformer movies is so fast that you can't just keep up with it. So it's frustrating. So while I like action, it has to be well choreographed. It can't be too fast. And of course, now that I'm old, it sounds like I'm old, but I am. But there it is. But yeah, only in Hollywood. Only in Hollywood. But this next, since we're talking about Hollywood movies, what about AI? There's some stuff that is coming out that, they have spokespeople, they have music groups that are made by AI, and they're incredible. They've done short stories on AI, and some of the clips that we've seen from like Grok and OpenAI and things like that. It's getting amazing to the point of where I think Elon Musk was saying that in a year or two or whatever, they'll be able to have a full movie just made on Grok, and that is going to upend Hollywood. And then I don't know, what are we going to do? That's really, if you want to make a movie, you just type in the script and everything and let the AI run with it, and boom, now suddenly you made a movie, which took usually in the past thousands and thousands of people. I don't know. If you want a horror movie, a horror thriller, look up Patrick, another great Aussie movie. So let me pull this up. Australian movie. Not move, but movie. Patrick. 1978. Whoa, wow, that's a little bit of an old one. We're going way back in time. What is that about? Let me pull that up and see what Patrick is. 1978. Wow. Star Wars was released in what, 76 or 77, something like that? I think it was 77. Science fiction horror film. And after 3 years after murdering his parents, Patrick lies in a coma at a clinic in Melbourne. Following a job interview, the head of the hospital is taken on as Patrick's new nurse. His condition says he is being kept alive to explore the nature of life and death. Blah, blah, blah. Unbeknownst to hospital staff, Patrick has psychokinetic powers and the ability to travel outside of his body. Moving objects. Ooh, that could be interesting. I could check that out. That'd be worth checking out, I think. That could be interesting. So yeah, cool. I'll have to check that out. The Castle and Patrick. So yeah, some good stuff there. But yeah, it really makes you wonder, where is the future of entertainment going? And I fully, there's already music. Matter of fact, wife and I were listening to some stuff on Spotify, fake music, all AI generated, and some of that stuff is really good. I was like, wow. You're not even going to need people to sing anymore. You're not going to need actors anymore, because all of this stuff is going to be AI generated. And it's just, are you going to be able to dictate and say, hey, I want a TV series of 20 episodes of, this with a plot, and you give the story and whatever. Hell, you could have ChatGPT give you the script, and you just import that, and boom, next thing you know, you got a television series made by AI for your own personalized TV show or movie. Wow, that is incredible. I remember there was, it's the end of the movie star. The end of the movie star. Yeah, I mean, that used to be a thing. And eventually we're getting to the point of where there was, now there's groups and music that are rocking it and killing it, but it's all AI generated. There was I can't remember the name of the program, but it had like a trial little run, and in the text prompt that you could do, you could make a song. And so I said, hey, make a song about depression and this and overcoming that. Have it with a kind of a classic rock, raspy male voice, with some good grunge type guitar stuff. And I put in some lyrics and whatever. And it popped out like a 10-second little clip of that. Holy crow, that sounded awesome. It was like, and that is all coming true. So, I mean, it's coming really, really quick. And yeah, like Zombie says, I think eventually we'll get to a place of where, what's a movie star? Maybe not, maybe the kids' will end up and they'll be like, oh, there goes grandpa or great grandpa. He's talking about how people used to act in movies and sing. And okay, grandpa, let's get you back to the home. I fully expect that to happen, unfortunately. But the days of Errol Flynn and some of the old actors, Sean Connery, and just a lot of the, how movie making used to be, Charlie Chaplin and all that stuff. It's going to be really interesting to see how that goes. Zombie says, used to go to the movies to see your favorite movie star, but now the only real star left is probably Tom Cruise. Yeah, I mean, he's pretty good, and he's getting older. There's some definitely, like Tom Hardy. I like Tom Hardy. I like the series that he was in of, I forget it, where he played like a guy that went to Africa and he was fighting the East India Trading Company. Tom Hardy movies and TV series. Lawless was Taboo. That was it. It was Taboo. That series was really good. I really liked him in that. Warrior was a good movie that he was in. Lawless, I think he did great. Didn't like him in Capone. I wasn't really into that. But he's another, I like him as an actor. And It ends up still no Steve McQueen. That's true. Nobody could be Steve McQueen. That Mad Max, Mel Gibson and the Mad Max series and stuff. That was kind of post-apocalyptic, visceral type. But back in the day, that was like, ooh. I watched Mad Max a little while ago, and I was like, wow. And even though it was old, it was still a good movie. So, Zombie says, now a star doesn't guarantee a movie's success. That's true. But then the landscape has changed as well. Because it used to be, like back in the day, movie stars commanded success. So if you had a movie star in there, a high-paid movie star, like the Errol Flynn and some of the old movie stars back in the day, they guaranteed that a movie would succeed. And then over time that changed, and then it was like, okay, well, now we got movie stars, and just because you have a movie star, like you said, it doesn't guarantee success. But like I said, the landscape changed because movies used to be movies. You had to go to the movie theater and you paid money, and that was the outlet. So any type of entertainment, everybody went to the movies, so they made a lot of money. But then during, and I can't remember what it was, but when DVDs came into play, we had a little bit of a transition period. And so movies that might not have done as well at the theater, they could make it up on the back end with DVD sales and DVD rentals and so on and so forth. And so actors could be seen as being big actors. But then when it went to online and they got rid of DVDs, it ends up that there went that revenue stream. And so when you have that revenue stream is gone from that movie making process, now you don't have as much money to make movies. So your return on investment, and then you got the problems of, actors and actresses that are dumber than a bag of hammers, throw that into the mix. And then you got bad storytelling and so on and so forth. It's definitely a change in movies. But the AI stuff, that would be interesting to see how that comes into play. Zombie says, Mad Max was filmed about 30 minutes from where you are now. Really? Wow. That was so cool, Mad Max. And then the Mad Max, and what was the one with Beyond Thunderdome? I thought that kind of turned out to be good. That was a good one. I like that one. The one with Tom Hardy. And then the latest one, which, of course, that was the Tom Hardy one, was Charlize Theron. Not so much. And then when she had her arm cut off or whatever, had the robot arm, and then that kind of whole thing, and Immortal Joe and whatever. Kind of, sort of. But then with the Tom Hardy, it's kind of like he got they kind of cut him off, and it kind of pushed for, the women way too much. And it was just kind of like, I watched it. Fury Road. Yeah, Fury Road. It was kind of like, that could have been so much better. There was still the element, the action. You still had some character development, but I think they just went too heavy-handed on certain portions of that. And it was like, dang it. That could still be really good. Oh, the other movie that I really liked, if we're talking about post-apocalyptic world, The Book of Eli. That, I really, really enjoyed that. With Denzel Washington and that whole deal, kind of like reminiscent of The Blind Samurai back in the day. If you're a movie buff, there was that. And that genre has been kind of, there was Rutger Hauer played in a movie where he ended up basically being a blind samurai type of deal. He was in Vietnam, he was shot, he went blind. Village rescued him and trained him to be a swordsman and whatever. I can't remember the name of the movie, but that was kind of good. But the Denzel Washington Book of Eli was really, really good. And I'm not sure why there wasn't a series on that, TV series. That would have been awesome. Zombie says, goes back to a 120-pound woman beating up a 240-pound guy. Right? Yeah, yeah, I agree. There's some stuff, and when I see like the TV series or, and you have somebody like, who was it? Was it Thandie Newton or Zoe Saldana? I can't remember which one because I always get those two confused. But one of them ends up being a black ops operator and whatever, and she's like kicking ass and taking names. And it's like, lady, you weigh like 75 pounds, and you're knocking people out and so on and so forth. It's like, come on, be real. That's just a little bit rough, in my opinion. Miss Lennox 2010 says, hi, I'm lurking and working. Just wanted to say hello. Well, hello. Welcome to the show. Talking about movies. We were talking about some Amazon stuff that I got, but now we're just kind of getting sidetracked into movies and theater. And George says, let me make this bigger so I can read it. These directors and actors are killing movies, even good ones where they have a chance because they just can't get that back up there. They have a chance because they just can't shut the hell up. They piss off everyone and then whine when no one watches the movie. I know, right? Rachel Zegler. Yeah. I mean, Rachel Zegler is probably the prime example of what not to do as an actor. And yet she's still full of herself, thinking that she's all that and a bag of chips. Again, I don't mind strong female characters. You look at Ripley from the Alien series and so on and so forth. There's a lot of great women actors that portrayed some incredible characters. But when you get into the stuff of, where, you can't support the fans, you can't support the movie, you have to go off on some political rant, grandstanding, get on your soapbox about this or that or whatever. And it's just like it takes away from your job of being an entertainer. And it detracts from that. So the old movie stars, even when you look back to Charlie Chaplin, Errol Flynn, and all of those guys, even Rock Hudson and, John Wayne, even though he was there was no character depth in him at all, but he was just the Duke. But even then, I mean, they didn't talk bad. They didn't blow off at the mouth and ruin the movie or make, comments that where the company Hollywood was like, oh, seriously, can we shut him or her up? Because then it alienates the audience or it pisses off the audience. They don't go see the movie, and then the company nobody makes money. It ends up being a loss. So something is to be said for keeping your mouth shut and just giving good content to the fans. Exploring the character, the story. Ensuring that the audience comes in. The reason I go to a movie is because I don't want to deal with political BS. I don't want to deal with everything that's going on in the world. Entertainment is the thing that is my safe space outside of the world that I can enjoy. But some people just don't let you do that anymore. So it's very unfortunate indeed. But yeah, there's a lot of good, the older series and stuff like that. I found myself doing that. Miss Lennox says, I dislike how young 21-year-old men and women get leading hero roles. That's why movies like Expendables really grew on me, reminding me that sometimes we need a seasoned hero to carry the story. Yeah, we were talking about that, matter of fact. You hit the nail 100% on the head. In character development, there has to be that. There has to be some personal struggles. And with that, you can't get that except with time and experience. And when you throw teens or kids or preteens or even just teenagers into the mix and make them, boom, there you are, you're the hero, without that experience, without that character development, without the depth, it really does a disservice to the story. But yeah, unfortunately, that's a thing these days, and I don't know. People aren't making money, and you'd think Hollywood would get a clue, but a lot of them don't. George says you have to be mindful of when you make your statements. Not saying you have to be quiet, just be mindful when you do it. Yeah, I mean, they don't know what side their bread is buttered, and that can be very problematic. Again, the Rachel Zegler was a prime example of that. If because she was new on the scene, and Hollywood was going to make her the it girl, and even though her prior movies weren't box office smashes, she did okay. She was attractive and so on and so forth. But then it got to the Snow White thing, and there's a couple of things that really, I think, blew that movie out. One was the story. They changed the story and just destroyed it. And then her thoughts about the story of, it just blew it. It was just, yeah, she should have just shut up. And then when Hollywood told her to shut up, she still didn't shut up. And now where she's at, she's basically a nobody now. Kind of like what's her face from the Marvels, Brie Larson, and then the whole Johnny Depp thing. That was kind of hilarious. You didn't see what I wrote about getting shot in Hollywood. You didn't see what I wrote. Let's see. Getting shot. You got shot in Hollywood? I didn't get shot in Hollywood. Did you get shot in Hollywood? I was an inmate in Hollywood. Actually, when I was in Oahu, I ended up doing do some casting as an extra, and I was on a couple of TV shows. I was on NCIS and what was the other one? Used to have Magnum PI. That was the other one I was on. So I did some stints on some of those. So George says she burned not only her career, but hundreds of other people got the shaft because of her. Yeah, there is something to be said. The less you say, the smarter you appear. And she left. There's no doubt in my mind that she is monumentally stupid. It's just like, please be quiet, because there could be some redemption. When you look at actors like, what's his face, the guy that played Iron Man, and the name escapes me for some strange reason, Robert Downey Jr. He was on the out. And then somebody took a chance on him and he turned his life around and he ended up and he's a phenomenal actor. But you don't see these great actors of past or present talking bad, at least the good ones, talking about politics or talking about this or that. Some of them do. But I mean, the really good ones, they're back in the day or even in recent history, they knew to keep their mouth shut because politics change. And things change, and at the drop of a hat. So it's better just to keep your mouth shut and be seen as smart than open your mouth and confirm that you're stupid. Or, like the political winds change, and you could say something that, yeah, you're right, but then now all of a sudden the public changed, and now they view you as somebody that they don't want to associate with. They don't want to see you. They're not going to go see you in your movies that you're in. And so, agencies are like, oh, nope, you're fired. We're not going to deal with you. It's just, I went to drama school. I took drama classes. And like I said, that was one of the things that I wanted to do. I wanted to be an actor. And it was, our drama teacher was part of a casting company and stuff like that. And she made it very clear, that don't talk bad about your fellow actors. Don't talk bad about the story. You can complain up, don't complain down. And try to change things. But don't do the disservice of putting a bad light on the production that you're doing. you know. And if nothing changes and you think it should be changed, just, you know, power on through it and finish it and just take it as a lesson learned. George says they had a morals clause. Yeah. I mean, there's so many places now that have a morals clause, and professional sports teams have moral clauses as well, because people end up doing monumentally stupid stuff. And it's like, seriously, you shouldn't have to have a morals clause in your contract. Hey, don't do drugs, don't kill people, don't, you know, assault people or whatever, or, you know, don't say bad stuff about the movie or the production or the other actors or the director on this film or production or whatever, you know. I mean, but yet it's sad that we have to have that because people don't have common sense anymore, unfortunately. A lot of them don't have common sense. So when you get actors that do really well and hold themselves to a high standard and immerse themselves into the roles and enjoy it, like one of the Heath Ledger and Batman, incredible, powerful performance, and he just dove into that, and that ended up, damn it, stupid drugs. It was just, there will never be a Joker like that ever again. It'll be one of those iconic performances that will never be repeated, you know. And you just wish that people like that would have hanged around longer to see what else they could do. So I don't know. It ends up, it is what it is. Anyway, I'm starting to get hungry because it's like 5:15 here in Korea in the evening on the 13th here, Monday, October. And we're going to cut this video. We're going to call it done because now that we have solved all the movie problems in Hollywood and how to be a good actor and so on and so forth, now that we fixed that, and thanks to you all out there, I can go get something to eat and feel satisfied. So, and wherever you're at, get a good meal, have fun. But thank you, everybody, for stopping by and having the conversation that we do. It's really good. I like this stuff. I enjoy it. And especially being here in Korea, I'm kind of removed from the United States, literally and figuratively. And so being able to have discussions like this and with good people, it's so hard to find good people, and that's why I like the people that join in on this, is because there hasn't been anybody that I wouldn't want to hang around and have a discussion with, and so I appreciate that. I really do. That's just, it is what it is. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and call that a day. Zombie says, see you, Steve. Yes, you as well. Miss Linux, she pops up. Thanks for the awesome stream. You're welcome. Appreciate it as well. See you, George and Miss Linux, all of that, and of course the people that were on before, we appreciate it. Adam, Ferrithus, all of those, and the other people that are going to watch us. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate that. And again, the obligatory outro. Here it is. You want to email me? There's the email address. I always answer my emails. Might take a couple of days. People over here bought me coffee. If you want to do that, that's cool. If you don't, the best thing that you could do is like this video. That would be the coolest thing. So, George, everybody else, have a good one, and we'll continue on doing some cosplay, 3D printing, streaming about movies, and whatever else. It's been really good. We'll close out with Miss Linux says, have a nice day, Steve, Zombie Hunter, and George, and everybody else. We'll continue with that. So, have a good one, and we'll see you on the next video. Peace. Good stuff. That was a good one. I like this. Good.